If Razer's recent stripped-down, lightweight, FPS-focused gaming mice haven't been quite your flavor, Roccat is out with a much different take on the gaming mouse, the Kone XP Air. This cord-cutting Air wireless variant of the Kone XP is marketed as a multi-purpose gaming mouse with up to 29 assignable functions and an RGB-infused charging dock. Coming in at $170, the price is pretty steep, but you're getting a lot for that. So let's dive in and take a closer look at the Roccat Kone XP Air. Hey everyone, I'm Jor with 9to5Toys, and these kind of multi-genre mice usually have quite a few buttons on the sides. That makes it possible in games like MOBAs or Battle Royales or MMOs, where you can use a bunch of functionality on the left side of the mouse without actually having to, bind different things to your keyboard. And typically with something like the Razer Naga or the Logitech G600, those are kind of laid out in a multi-button array. But with the Kone XP Air, the Easy Shift mode makes it so basically every button has a secondary function. And so with the combination of the various different buttons that you have on here, that takes the total possibility up to 29 different functions. And the Kone XP comes in both black and white colorways. You can see we have the white here. And also included in the box are a charging dock, which we'll talk a little bit about later, a USB wireless dongle, a USB-A to USB-C cable, and some literature. And as you can see, Roccat's bright Aimo RGB shines through this translucent shell. And this wireless mouse can run for up to 100 hours on the internal battery, but is easy to recharge thanks to that dock. And continuing with the design, a right-handed ergonomic mouse, meaning that it's slightly sloped to the right for a more natural hand position. The Kone XP Air measures 126 millimeters long and 40 millimeters tall. The total width is 72 millimeters with that large flare for the Easy Shift button on the bottom, but the actual grip width is more like 65 millimeters. And this puts the Kone XP Air a bit smaller than the Razer Basculus V3, which is a similar multi-genre gaming mouse. And weighing 99 grams, the Kone XP Air is not necessarily a lightweight gaming mouse, but that is pretty reasonable for everything that you're getting here. For a mouse that features everything from wireless connection to bright RGB and multiple buttons like a multifunction scroll wheel, coming in just under 100 grams is pretty reasonable. For example, the wired Basilisk V3 from Razer weighs 101 grams. With large PTFE skates on the bottom, the Kone XP Air moves pretty smoothly and definitely does not feel overly cumbersome. The shell itself is a very smooth plastic. On the left and right are a slight grooved finish for a little more grip, but all in all, I never had any issues gripping the Kone XP Air. And as this multi-genre gaming mouse, one of the biggest features on here is the variety of buttons that are available. First up are two buttons on the left side of the mouse 1 button. By default, these are set to change DPI settings, and personally, when frantically battling in FPS games, there were a couple of times where I accidentally hit the buttons mid-firefight, which did not end well for me. So I ended up disabling these buttons in the standard layout, but for me they offer more usability when using the Easy Shift mode. Also on the left side are 4 thumb buttons. The top 2 are relatively high for my hand and take a decent amount of effort to reach and actuate. But all 4 buttons have a really nice tactile click that really feels solid in use. The 4D scroll wheel can be clicked in and pushed left or right for more custom actions. It has a stepped feel to it with a nice solid satisfying click down. Pushing left or right takes a bit less force and isn't as clicky as pressing down. And behind the scroll wheel is another button that by default will change the active profile. But once again, this can be disabled or altered from the Roccat Swarm app to a different function. And lastly, the big feature here is the Easy Shift button. And this is just the default button. It can be changed to anything else on the mouse, but it is this little button that would be pressed like down with your thumb. And as you can hear, it has a nice tactile click as well. It also makes the mouse light up blue, so you know that that is being enabled, which is kind of fun. So it's very easy to find and actuate. It just kind of sits. Let's see here, what's the best way to hold it? It just kind of sits right there at the bottom of your thumb, so you just roll it down a little bit and you can actuate that button, which is pretty handy. And while I'm not sure that I would use the Easy Shift mode very much in gaming, I actually found it pretty useful for productivity. By default, in the Easy Shift mode, the scroll wheel will control media with play and pause when pressed in, skipping tracks by pushing left or right, and volume with the scroll wheel. So if you have a smaller keyboard like a 60%, having this extra functionality available on the mouse can be pretty useful. On the battlefield though, this is meant to make, calling up different functions or bringing out different, utilities in a battle royale or in a MOBA or in, an MMO a lot easier because, instead of hitting a different combination of keys on your keyboard, it's just right there at your thumb. And like we mentioned, if this thumb button isn't the best place for that, then it can be changed to any other button on here as well. And for example, when you're pushing down on that thumb button, I have a hard time, it's pretty much impossible for me to push any of these upper 4 thumb buttons. So to access those easy shift functionalities, I ended up changing this minus button that's next to mouse 1 to an additional easy shift mode button. So I could hold that and then I could push any of the thumb buttons to activate those secondary functions. So overall, it's a nice implementation of these secondary functions. And of course, this mouse can just be customized however you want, so it works best for you. And through the Roccat Swarm app, you can set up different profiles, which can be activated by different apps. So you can have something set differently for games or for something like Premiere Pro if you wanted to make some, custom functions for those different programs, depending on what you're doing and, what keys you actually wanted to press when doing that. And then one of the most unique cosmetic aspects of the Kone XP Air is the Aimo RGB that illuminates the insides with the translucent shell where the palm of your hand rests. Combined with the RGB and the scroll wheel, it's a brilliant light show that by default dims when the mouse is in motion and brightens back up when it stops to save a little bit of battery. There are 5 RGB zones in total, and while it may not have the complete customizability as Razor's Mice and interactivity with other devices and apps, each zone can be controlled and the lighting can be synced between the mouse and the dock. And moving on to the dock, beyond the RGB on the mouse itself, the Kone XP Air comes with a sleek dock that also has RGB around the base. And placing the mouse on the dock is easy thanks to the large connection points. And it also holds the mouse at a nice angle that shows off the RGB of both devices. The dock has a detachable USB-C to USB-A cable that will run to your PC and a USB-A port on front for holding the wireless dongle. And over on the hardware side of things, Roccat is using the 19K DPI Owl Eye sensor and the Titan optical switches on the Kone XP Air. And while I don't have a setup to really test the latency from the mouse, everything feels snappy and responsive. Everything really seems to perform as it should. And all the buttons around the mouse really have a satisfying click and feel to them. It feels like Roccat didn't skimp on making sure that everything sounds and feels good. So here, I'll kind of click around the mouse a little bit. You can hear how that sounds. So that's the easy shift button. Here are the different thumb buttons. You can hear how those sound. Here are the buttons next to mouse 1. And of course, mouse 1 and mouse 2. And with the scroll wheel, it's pretty silent. Then when you click it in, it almost sounds like another mouse click. It has about the same sound and feel, and then pushing it left and right. And overall, the mouse feels pretty solid. It has a multi-piece shell, and there's a lot going on in there, but it doesn't really feel like it's flexing or, moving very much. So coming in at $170, the Roccat Kone XP Air costs quite a bit, but it also delivers a lot. The combination of RGB, charging dock, and a total of 29 programmable functions makes the Kone XP Air a great multi-purpose mouse for different genres of games, as well as productivity. Hardcore FPS players will probably want to shed the weight, but that's not really the intention of the Kone XP Air. It really is a fun mouse that looks good, feels good, sounds good, and can be customized to your heart's content with tons of buttons and the easy shift mode. And that really is the price of the wireless premium. I guess you're getting the dock as well, but you can pick up the wired version of this mouse for, I think, $75 right now. It's down from the usual $90. So if you don't need the wireless functionality, but you like everything else about this, actually the wired version even has more RGB on the mouse, check out that one. But Roccat mentioned that a lot of people were asking for a wireless version, so they delivered it, and they did not skimp on the functions and features there with the 100-hour battery life and the charging dock as well. So if you're willing to pay almost $100 more for the wireless version, this is what you're getting. Alright, and that's going to do it for our review of the Roccat Kone XP Air. Let us know what you think about it down in the comments below. And if you're looking for some other videos to watch, I'll link to a couple over here that you can check out. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up so other people can find it easier, and consider subscribing. This is Jordan with 9to5 Toys.